Today on Outside the Box Reviews, it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. And you know how I know that? It's not because the stores have decorations everywhere and they're playing music and all that crap. It's because I walked into Toys R Us and found this year's exclusive NECA Predators 2-pack. So today we are looking at the NECA Predator Dutch vs. Jungle Hunter, the final battle, Toys R Us exclusive 2-pack. And I guess when I said Predator Week was ending, I was lying. I had no idea that these figures were going to hit stores so soon. I honestly thought we'd have to wait another couple weeks, but they popped up real quick. So let's go ahead and review them. The pack comes with just one accessory, and it is the Jungle Hunter mask. And it is well done. I mean, it's just a part of the sculpt that they've used on everything else, but it looks fine on its own. Kind of cool that you could have it just lying around or being held by a character. It's got all the nice detail we've come to expect. But my one big gripe about this, and it's mostly just because we just got that Kenner line that had the great detail inside of Nightstorm's mask. This has nothing on the inside. It's just plain silvery plastic. It would have been cool if we could have gotten some extra stuff in here just to see kind of what the Predator would see before he put the mask on. Sure, there's probably nothing to match it up to within the movie, but I think it would have been a neat add-on. But seriously, that is it for accessories. Dutch doesn't get any kind of weapon. The Predator doesn't get a plasma caster. Nothing. So we're just going straight into the figures. And here we have our 5th Dutch figure from NECA, which is kind of crazy to think of. We just started getting them earlier this year, and we've already gotten 5, and we have one more to look forward to before the year's out. But this is very much the final battle version. I think it's a cool version to have, basically showing you how he looked after he was covered in mud when he gets actually into the final battle. So he's very dirty and very bloody. For the head sculpt, NECA has given us the same head sculpt yet again. But with this Dutch face, I have to say, it's almost like a great mask. Like, think of the mask in like V for Vendetta or Phantom of the Opera or something like that, where it can be the same look, but it can always kind of portray different emotions and different feelings by how you light it and how you paint it. And I kind of feel like Dutch has a little bit of that going on. He's been the same head sculpt all across these figures, but by the wear and tear they put on it, it actually can give it a slightly different expression. Now let's face it, Arnold Schwarzenegger, not the world's greatest thespian. He doesn't really have that big of a range of emotion, so you almost kind of get away with it here. But you can tell they're still using the semi-translucent plastic here, but it looks really good. The stubble looks great. The hair is all slicked back from the mud. He looks pissed. He needs to be pissed at this point. But very cool. The only Dutch head sculpt we've gotten so far that hasn't been covered in camo paint, even though it has a bunch of other stuff on it, but no camo paint, and that's kind of nice. Coming down to the body of him. It's the same muscle body we've already gotten in previous release figures, but it's a very nice sculpt. He's got a huge torrent of blood going down his chest. He's got bloody upper arm there. On the back, he's dirty and a little more blood, but a lot more dirt back here. Very cool looking. This guy's watch. Now, I was slightly less excited about this because we did get that version. I forget the name of it off the top of my head, but he was basically shirtless and he had the black vest over top of it. And with my figure, I took the vest off and displayed it as shirtless Dutch. So I've basically had a version kind of like this, just without the weathering on it for quite a while now. So maybe that makes me a little tired of having a figure like this. I guess if you kept them all stock and totally normal, this would be the first non-muddy shirtless Dutch you have, so it could actually be a little variance to your collection, but for me, this isn't that big of a deal. I also want to say I am upset they didn't change out the hands. We still get the vaguely open hand on his left side, and on his right we have the trigger finger. Now looking back at my other Dutch figures, it appears that the Mud Dutch didn't have a trigger finger, that his hand was a little more closed. It could have been a defect on my piece, or it could have been something intentional, but it kind of stinks that they gave us just these same old hands again. I would have loved to have gotten a fist or something so you could reenact the scene where him and the Predator are punching each other out. Down here we have the same old camo pants, very dirty, very muted this time around. The straps are still on there, marred up by the dirt and the mud. And then he's got his combat boots, which are surprisingly clean. Seem a little cleaner than they should be, but they're there. For articulation, Dutch has a ball-jointed head, so up and down, side to side. Pretty good range of motion there. Mid-torso joint, so you could also swivel and go forward and back and all the good stuff. Pin socket shoulders, forward back out to the side. Bend and swivel at the elbow. ball joint at the wrist, ball joint at the waist, which is pretty loose on mine, but good range of motion. Pin socket legs, forward, back, out to the side again, swivel at the upper thigh. He has the diaper so he doesn't hinder his articulation. Bend and swivel at the knee, bend and pivot at the foot. And my other Dutch figures had a rotation here, and I think this one has it as well, but it's very stuck in the pant leg. I don't want to force it. So he probably has a rotation at the top of his ankle here as well. As for the Jungle Hunter, I'm even less excited about this one because, well, we've gotten everything here before. There's nothing new on this figure. This head sculpt came out in the first Toys R Us exclusive 2-pack back with the alien figure. The body, of course, you've seen before. This is the better articulated version, but it's still the same body, same basic paint. The only thing we have added on here is the blood effect on his head. And then that really kind of bugged me when I went back to watch the movie just to get a little bit of insight from the scene, and I realized that this splash of blood up here on top of his head only shows up for one quick shot in the film. He's trapped under the log after Dutch gets him, and he vomits up a little blood. It lands on his eyebrow and quickly drips off and is no longer there in the following scenes. That's a bit of a bummer because it really kind of makes this a very, very scene-specific figure. But overall, it's what we've gotten a lot before. I really never warmed up to this closed mouth expression for the Predator. It's a little goofy looking. He does have some extra blood inside the mandibles there, adding to the effect that he spit this blood up on himself. His eyes are well done. It's something I was really paying attention to in package, trying to find one with good eyes painted in there. The head detail is what we've come to expect. His rubberized dreads, as always, mine are a little warped. A little extra blood up here where his cannon used to be. Of course, this figure doesn't come with the cannon, as I already said. He's got all of his armor. Plenty of blood up here around the neck and on the bone trophy around his neck. Kind of cool. And overall, I mean, he's a well-painted example of the figure. He, of course, has his retractable blades here on the arm. But there just is so little new about him. Even the hands. These are hands we've gotten a bunch before, too. We have the open one on his left and the fist on his right. Almost every example of this figure came like that. The only one I could think of off the top of my head that didn't was last year's open mouth version, and he came with 2 open hands. I think that would have been preferable, and granted you could switch them out real easy, they're just on ball joints, but because of the way the Predator takes his mask off, and because this one comes with the mask accessory, I think it would have been cool to make it so he could hold the mask, or at least look like he was removing it. Obviously articulation is hindered enough where you can't really reach up and grab his face, but just hands to hold the mask would have been cool, or to hold Arnold. That would have been cool as well. His loincloth, the soft rubber piece down here, I really like the way they've done this on this modern version of the body. The flap in the back, upper leg armor, shin armor, and his Predator feet. Really not a whole lot to say on this figure, it's all the same. And also, like last year's open mouth Predator, he does have the wound on his leg here, one that I totally messed up on my last video of him and said I wasn't sure if it belonged. Gone back, I've got plenty of responses. Yeah, it belongs, it's supposed to be there. Another neat detail they could have added would have been finally giving us a wrist computer that opens. Thanks to Wolfpred 101, I've seen that there is an article that I'd actually looked at but completely not read and not really paid much attention to, obviously, but it had an early image of the new AVP line and stated that they are going to have opening wrist computers. Would have been great to implement that here because this is the scene right before he blows up, so it would have been very appropriate to have an openable wrist computer, but didn't get that here. Like I said, just nothing new here, nothing new at all. Another kind of unique thing they could have done here would be to give us the wider version of these blades. Towards the end battle, the Predator kind of widens his blades so they fit on either side of Dutch's head. It's kind of a weird thing that's never come back up in any of the sequels. And granted, it would have required more sculpting and something new, but hey, since we got none of that on here, it would have been really cool to get maybe that version. We could recreate that scene. Articulation is bone standard, ball joint at the head, still a great range of motion. You gotta give it to him for doing a good job with the articulation on these figures. Pin socket arm joints forward, back, out to the side. Bend, swivel at the elbow, rotate at the wrist, ball joint, swivel at the waist, pin socket legs forward, back, out to the side, swivel at the upper thigh, double jointed knee, and a ball joint at the foot. So overall, I don't think I recommend this set. If you've been collecting along with these figures, getting them as they've come out like I have, this is really a letdown of a set. The Arnold, I think, is strong enough that you probably could have thrown some kind of accessory with him, maybe a rock or something, given him some new hands, released him on his own. He could have been fine in an extra wave coming up in the future. The Predator, I think, while I like the idea of him being battle damaged, it's such a brief scene in the film that it pretty much makes it worthless. Even if they'd taken the blood off his face, the Predator isn't bloody until he goes down for the final time. So despite this being called the final battle in the title of the set, this is after the battle. This is the aftermath. This is just right before the Predator pulls out his one last trick and ends everything and pretty much ends the movie. So I can't recommend it. It really just comes up lackluster to me. I'm pretty disappointed. Now the trophy skulls are all done and all that good stuff's out of the way, it seems like this doesn't have enough to give us. I like the extra biomask that you could just have as a display piece, but obviously it's not going to fit on the figure, and it doesn't have any detail on the backside, so it's only a one-sided piece. And that being it, I mean, throw in another plasma caster. I said this with the albino Predator. This is supposed to be a special pack. This is supposed to be something cool and exclusive, and really just to give us rehashes of figures that have already been done. I'm not a fan. There really needed to be something else in this set to make it worthwhile, so not recommend. I guess if you're just getting into this line, if you want an in point and you love the movie and you want to pick up some figures from it, this is definitely fine. This is a nice way to get two figures and you pay less than regular retail for them. But for the people like me that have been collecting along the way, this just kind of comes off as pointless. Make sure you check out Outside the Box Reviews on Facebook. There'll be a link below. Also check out Outside the Box Reviews on Instagram. Username Outside the Box Reviews. And until next time, hopefully there's a slight chance this time that the next wave of Predator figures will hold off long enough that Predator Week doesn't end up elongating itself into a full-fledged Predator month. Then again, I might not mind that so much. See you guys next time.
If you collect it, you can find it at allscaleseverything.com.